everyone. My name is Claire Williams. First, I would like to say, on behalf of North Shore Unite, thank you all for coming and welcome. This would be nothing without the support of everyone here. Today we gather angry, upset, and confused. This country is broken deep down to its core. A good portion of Americans refuse to have any conversations on gun legislation, and are okay with innocent people dying in the streets because the politicians they trust say that preserving the Second Amendment matters more than protecting the lives and freedoms of the American people. Because of this, we live in fear of getting shot when we leave our homes, and that violence may strike right around the corner. In our streets, in our schools, in our hospitals, in our places of worship, in our grocery stores, even in our homes. In a world where so much evil can persist, we must not let it win. We must refuse to accept this as a reality. We must refuse to accept that innocent children dying in our schools is the new normal so that gun manufacturers and the NRA can continue to distribute military-grade weapons to the public and profit off the deaths of people just like you and me. We will show these people that their way of running our government does not work. I will educate, I will donate, I will petition, I will protest, I will vote them out, and I hope to God you will join me because our lives depend on it. Now, before we begin today, we will hold a brief vigil for those lost in the Highland Park tragedy less than 2 weeks ago. So welcome Ethan Absler, a representative from Highland Park. Thank you.
I'm going to read off the names real quick, and then we'll hold a minute of silence. Irina and Kevin McCarthy, Jackie Sundheim, Catherine Goldstein, Eduardo Ubaldo, Nicholas Toledo Zargoza, and Steven Strauss. Hello everyone, my name is Ethan Absler, and I wish that I did not have to make this speech, but I do. And there will be more people just like me who are forced to speak out against the current climate in our country. I debated making this speech a few times for a few reasons, and the first being that it's difficult to talk about this. I don't want to talk about this, and sometimes it's scary to talk about this. But I need to use my voice and my platform and speak out. I've lived in Highland Park my entire life. I went to the parade every year. It was the highlight of my summer as a child, and I almost went again this year as I was finally back home for the summer. Growing up, I never really felt pride being from Highland Park. I wasn't ashamed of it, but most people didn't know where Highland Park was, so I'd just say the suburbs of Chicago. I've debated for years whether or not I want to return to Highland Park, and I've debated whether or not I want to raise my kids there. I've tried weighing the pros and cons of the city, but on the 4th of July, that all changed. On the 4th, I became proud to be a Highland Parker. On the 4th of July, I felt the love from the resilient and caring and tight-knit community that is Highland Park for my first time. I finally understood why people come back and what makes the North Shore such a special place. And for the first time ever, I felt what it's like to really be proud of Highland Park. I'm honored to be a part of that community and feel so lucky to be involved with such a compassionate, brave, and beautiful group of people. But despite all that, I wish it didn't come to this, and it shouldn't have come to this. because this tragedy was preventable. We are being held hostage in this country by a small group of people in Washington who believe that their NRA money and the right to own a weapon of war is more important than the lives of children in this country. We're being held hostage by a group of people who would rather hold on to their position of power than do literally anything to help protect the 350 million Americans that they are supposed to represent. We're being held hostage by a group of extremists who make it easier to buy a weapon that was designed to kill hundreds of people in a second than it is for a woman to access life-saving health care. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Even preschoolers, kindergartners, know how to compromise. Our politicians need to take a page out of little children's books and learn to compromise and get something done. The vast majority of Americans, sometimes the number reported is as high as 90%, want common sense gun reform. So why has it not happened? If our politicians, our leaders, the people who are capable of changing the rules will not listen to us and will not act, what are we supposed to do? It's embarrassing, it's scary, and I'm scared for the future of this country. I'm scared right now about my safety, and we're all really angry because no neighborhood should have to go through what we are going through right now. But as long as our nation's leaders continue to sit idly by, more and more cities will experience this, and the blood will be on their hands. To the politicians here today and the ones watching, if you fight for common sense gun reform, if you have been a tireless advocate of getting weapons of war off our streets, thank you. But to the ones watching this who will not do anything, you could have prevented this. It's not too late to prevent it again. The blood will be on your hands next time. We want stricter background checks. We want red flag laws that work. We want high-capacity magazines and modifications that turn a normal gun into a tool of terror banned. Be leaders. Be an example for the rest of our country and be the first to pass an assault weapons ban. We do not need weapons of war to prepare us for some doomsday. Because of children being shot at recess and people being shot at the grocery store and concerts and places of worship doesn't prove that the America we are currently living in is doomsday than what is. To the people here today, thank you for coming out and marching with us. Make sure to vote in every election for politicians who will listen to us, for politicians who stand behind common sense gun reform, and for politicians who won't break promises that they make just to get elected. This needs to be a wake-up call for our country. This is a crossroads. Everything changes right now, or the country will descend further into madness. I will forever mourn what happened in my hometown and know that we'll still come back stronger than ever. I leave you with this. My younger brother, he's 11. He told me just hours after the shooting, can you believe it, Ethan? Our first mass shooting. He knows there will be another. His reality is mass shootings. Our first mass shooting. That's not something kids should be saying.
That ain't right.
Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Felix. Thank you for all attending today. Unfortunately, we are gathering as a community. Unfortunately, we are gathering as a community not to celebrate a success, but to demand a change. Irina and Kevin McCarthy, Jackie Sudheim, Catherine Goldstein, Eduardo Uvaldo, Nicolas Toledo Zaragoza, and Stephen Strauss. These are the victims of the Highland Park 4th of July mass shooting. These names are engraved in the minds of the Highland Park people and the surrounding areas forever. There were also dozens of people who were injured and thousands who will suffer from mental and emotional damages for the rest of their lives. As a community, we must remember those names and not let them become another statistic. Every senseless mass shooting is a tragedy, and this time this tragedy has hit way too close to home. We have had over 300 mass shootings alone this year, and it is only July. The worst part, and the fear that we all have in the back of our minds, is that this tragedy was not the first or the last of its kind. Until there is a change, mass shootings will remain prevalent in our lives. The United States of America is our home, and I want to say it again. The United States of America is our home. However, these last couple of years have been anything but united. Like many of you, I refuse to live in a constant state of fear. This means we need to fight this injustice and the silence from those who promise to protect us. We demand something be done. Our nation has suffered too much at the hands of dangerous people who use guns to commit horrific acts. On June 21st of 1788, 234 years ago, our nation ratified the U.S. Constitution. Since then, the Constitution has been amended 27 times. Not once has one of those times been to make gun laws safer for its citizens. From 1994 to 2004, there was an assault rifles ban in the United States. During that time frame, mass shootings went down by over 70%. The Second Amendment, the right which allows us to bear arms, was created 234 years ago as well. Back then, ARs, high-capacity ammunitions, and fully automatic and semi-automatic weapons did not exist. We as a society have been excelling in creating new technologies. That means our laws need to evolve with us. There's no reason for any member of the public to have weapons of mass destruction. These were invented for times of war. The streets of Highland Park, the halls of Majority Stoneman Douglas, Sandy Hook, and Robb Elementary, the supermarket in Buffalo, and the Walmart in El Paso. These places are not war zones. These places are homes of American citizens just like you and me. We also must reform our background checks and red flag laws. Red flag laws are gun control laws that permit the police to petition a state court to order the temporary removal of firearms from a person whom they believe may present a danger to others or themselves. So I ask this question to our judges and leaders. How come in the majority of mass shootings was the weapon bought legally? Why is that? Why are these people slipping through the cracks? We supposedly have these red flag laws and background checks to prevent these events from happening, but the people who oversee them are clearly not doing their job. These laws must be tightened to ensure that people who pose a risk to our society do not gain access to these weapons. The minimum age to buy a weapon must be raised to 21. How can a person not buy alcohol or cigarettes from a gas station yet they can buy a weapon of mass destruction? What happened to a child's mind not being fully developed at that young of an age? I have an 8-year-old nephew who asked me not too long after these shootings happened, why did this shooter do these shootings? And is it possible that he can break out of jail and commit more of these horrific acts? How do you explain to an innocent child about all the evil in this world that he has not experienced yet? It is sickening that a child has to have these thoughts, and it is scary thinking kids are growing up in a world where even their schools aren't safe anymore. We demand immediate change. Whether it's the streets of Chicago or a parade in Highland Park, enough is enough. How many more families need to suffer the loss of a loved one at the expense of a lunatic who desires the death of others? How many more fellow citizens are we going to bury before politicians wake up and make a change? As citizens of America, we have the power to decide who runs our country. Whether it's the upcoming midterms or the next presidential election, we must show up. This is not a problem for Democrats or Republicans. This is a problem of our safety and well-being. We need to show up and vote for those who want to make a change. We must vote for those who will make our background check and red flag laws tighter, for those who will raise the minimum age to buy a gun to 21, for those who are willing to do anything it takes so that our America is the safe and prosperous place that it has the potential to be and once was. As a people, as a community, it is our duty to protect our neighbors and stop more senseless gun violence from destroying our homes. It should not be our job, but we must rise and take a stand when lawmakers have failed us. We must force Springfield and Washington to enact stricter gun laws. We must support the victims and families by ensuring no one else meets their fate and that their loved ones did not die in vain. Safety is a human right, and we must make sure our leaders never forget that. Thank you. I would now like to invite Congressman Brad Schneider to the podium.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. As I've had the unfortunate chance to say many times the last several days, quoting Rabbi Wendy Geffen at one of the funerals for the victims murdered on July 4th, we should not have to be here. But here we are. Every day in this country, 111 people die from gun violence. Whether it's violence in our streets, homicides, domestic violence, suicides, accidental gun deaths, 111 people die every day from gun violence. No other country comes even close. On July 4th, I typically walk in 5 parades. I walk in 5 parades. Highland Park is the second. Vernon Hills, Highland Park, Deerfield, Glencoe, Northbrook. Independence Day is the day when communities come together and celebrate. They celebrate the birth of our nation, the ideals of who we want to be as a country. Highland Park was no different. Thousands of people were gathered. Families, parents, grandparents, grandchildren, friends, folks coming back to their hometown from places all over the country just to be a part of the celebration. And it was an incredible celebration until 10:14. 10:14, a monster leaned over the roof railing at the corner of 2nd and Central and fired 83 bullets in a blink of an eye. 83 rounds, high-powered rifle, death, destruction, weapon of war. Let's start there. Let's ban these assault weapons. These weapons have no place in our community. Highland Park was the 308th mass shooting in the United States this year. Process that. July 4th is the 185th day of the year. Do your math. I'll do it for you. That's almost 12 shootings every week. Nearly 2 shootings, mass shootings, every day. The weapon of choice, as Felix said, is military-style assault weapons. And I'll say it again. We must ban military assault weapons, period. I'll come back to that in a second. But we're seeing violence in our communities on a daily basis. The same weekend that the attack happened in Highland Park, I think it was 50-some people were shot and 9 people murdered in Chicago. Same day, there was a shooting in Philadelphia. There were shootings across the country. And it's been roughly 2 weeks since the Highland Park shooting, and hundreds of Americans have lost their lives. And if you read the stories about any one of these people, whether it's an 88-year-old grandfather just enjoying the parade, 2 young parents who covered their son to protect him, sacrificing their own life and leaving him, a 2-year-old without loving parents, kids walking down the street in their community or playing in a park like this park here, kids sitting in their living room with random gunshots coming in through the window. None of this is acceptable. It's not acceptable anywhere. It cannot be acceptable in the United States of America. We cannot say we are the greatest country in the world when we are not able to protect our children, protect our communities. We have a Second Amendment. We have a tradition in this country of parents, grandparents taking their kids out hunting or target shooting, whatever the case may be, teaching them responsibility. That is not where our problem lies. But we have too many people, and in particular too many young people, who see a gun as the tool in which they can express their grievance, resolve their conflict, establish their manhood. This has to change. And that's why it's so important, as Felix said, is we need to make sure that our leaders, whether it is the federal, state, or local level, are standing up and saying enough is enough. Now, to her credit, Nancy Rotering, the mayor of Highland Park, and the town council was able to pass and secure all the way up to the Supreme Court an assault weapons ban. But unless we have an assault weapons ban at a national level, what Highland Park does is they're going to keep that community safe. Chicago has some of the strictest gun laws in the country. We can go to Chuck's Gun Shop just across the city border, or into Indiana, Mississippi, other places. Unless we accept this as a national dilemma, an epidemic threatening our communities and killing our children, these gun deaths are going to continue. And that's why we need national leadership. On Wednesday night, sometimes things happen by coincidence. I was on the floor of the House chamber with Jan and the rest of the Illinois delegation for a moment of silence and respect for the victims of Highland Park, the people who were murdered, the lives that were lost, to honor their lives and to remember their deaths. We were able to do it at the exact moment that the community gathered in Highland Park at City Hall. Sometimes things just work out. As I closed my remarks that evening, I also said that we've been here too many times. We're likely to be here again. And as we bowed our head and had a moment of silence for that one heinous, murderous shooting that devastated our community, I said, let us all take an extra moment to remember that people are dying every day and honor all the people who have died since. We can't just focus on our community. We have to focus on the carnage that is taking place in every community. Every one of these kids who are dying, whether it's Chicago, Uvalde, or anywhere else, are our kids, and we owe it to them to keep them safe. On Wednesday, I also spoke to the Democratic caucus Wednesday morning. I was a little bit reluctant to go. It's hard to talk about. But I'm pleased to say that with the Democrats in the majority, with the Speaker's gavel, chair, in this case, of the Judiciary Committee, next week we will be considering House Resolution 1808, banning assault weapons. Now, you know as well as I know that the Senate, with its rules, are not going to move this legislation.
Horrible.
So, someone said end the filibuster, and I appreciate that. And I'm in the House, but I can't tell the Senate what to do. But they sure are a broken institution.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
They are broken. But
our children are dying.
I can say what we can do as citizens. We can change the membership of the Senate. Make sure that there are senators who understand their responsibility. And make sure that we have the necessary 218 votes. Better yet, 280 votes. Better yet, 435 votes in the House.
Yeah.
And I'll close with this. When I first was elected, then Leader Pelosi, this was 2012, speaking to the new incoming members of Congress, said, your job title and your job description are the same one word, representative. We represent the people who elect us. You are fortunate that everyone on this parking lot, everyone here understands what's at stake and is working to keep our communities safe. Politics is the engagement of our citizens electing representatives who share their values. Everyone here shares the values of all of you. Reach out to your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, your family, whether they live here in Illinois or in any state across the country. And let's make sure that across the country, our voices are being heard and we're electing people who will put our kids first, get these guns off our street, and make sure our communities are safe. Thank you.
Tired of this.
Next, we would like to introduce Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky.
So first I want to thank the students and the young people who put this event together. Thank you. I want to thank Claire and Ethan and Felix for their words. I think we'll hear more from the young people. And I want to tell you, do not, obviously you have not given up hope. You have decided to engage all the time to be able to end the gun violence. And I want to tell you that you have a history behind you. You remember some of these mass shootings, the mass shootings that we saw at the Marjorie Stonewall, what is it? Douglas. And we saw a young man, David Hogg, stand up, and along with his colleagues in the high school. And you know what? They actually changed laws in Florida that made gun violence reduced. Now, we have to do that nationally, and we can do this nationally. You know, some of the bills that we passed just last week, I was at the White House, some of us were at the White House for the passage of the legislation, the Safe Communities Act that the president signed into law. It's not everything we want, but it is progress. We are going to be able to save lives with the 5 provisions that are in that legislation. We have to take victories where they come and build our power from there. And I want to say to the young people, your voice matters. Your voice is strong and sometimes stronger than all others. I want to thank, though, the moms who have been organizing for such a long time, all the gun violence groups. I want to thank the folks that came from Chicago, from the Chicago activist group. I want you to make sure you look at those pictures. Those are the faces of people who are dead.
Every day
In the city of Chicago.
Children matter.
And we can all work with them and work with each other to do something about it. I want to just give you just a couple of numbers. Brad mentioned that we know that every single day in the United States of America, 111 people are killed. The United States, which has only 4.3% of the population, we have 46% of the guns. We know that the #1 killer of children in the United States of America is gun violence. Shame on us. It is more deaths because of guns than from car accidents or cancer or any other disease. And we also know that that more children over the last 20 years have died from gun violence than active duty police, or active duty military. Think of that. More children are dead than those professionals. I'm telling you, we can act. So we made a start in the Congress. After 30 years of nothing, we did get this legislation passed that the president signed into law. Why did that happen? Not because members of Congress got smarter. It is because of the mobilization, the activism, the organizing that has changed the politics of guns. Suddenly, 17 Republicans in the Senate voted for this legislation that never would have been voted on before. 16 Republicans in the House of Representatives voted for the Safe Communities Act because they continue to be concerned about their reelection, but now they have figured out that supporting the gun lobby, the NRA, is not good for their reelection. And we have to keep fighting to make that truer and truer. I just want to also point out that, we saw the murder of the former prime minister in Japan. You know how many shooting deaths there were in Japan last year? 10. And this is a big country, over 130 million people. In the United States of America, 40,500 people died from guns in the United States last year. Shame on us. It doesn't happen anywhere else. So, how do we change the filibuster? How do we get the votes? I want to tell you something. It is one election away. It is one election away. I'm holding up 2 fingers. We need a net of 2 more senators who will vote to end gun violence. Those senators, we can get them to get rid of that filibuster, and we can pass legislation like we've never seen before that will limit the use of guns. Next week, you will see that vote, as Brad said, that we will vote in the House of Representatives to ban assault weapons.
Yes.
To ban assault weapons. And I believe that we will pass that in the House. And I am hoping that regardless of the outcome, that we have a vote in the Senate, so every person can see who is with us and who is not, and vote accordingly. So to all of those who have been mourning for what happened in Highland Park, what has happened in Chicago, what has happened around the country, we have power. The students today are proving that. They are with us to show the way. Let's follow them. Let's end the gun violence. Thank you.
Next up, I would like to invite Marcus Mcallister, community violence activist.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
As I listen to everything that's been said thus far, I say to myself, we shouldn't have to be here again. But then I say to myself, no, we need to continue to be here. We need to continue to apply pressure because that's what expected. They expect us to stop, and after a while you forget about things, and these things have happened over and over again. We should not take a break whatsoever in this country until these laws are changed, until the adequate resources are put in place. My name is Marcus Mcallister. I've been involved in community violence intervention for about 20 years now. I've seen all too often mass shootings in the streets of Chicago, the streets of New York. I've worked all over this country and abroad, helping to end gun violence in these inner cities and just throughout the country, period. I too was at the White House on Monday. And when the president got done doing his speech, people were gathering up to take pictures and whatnot. I walked over on the corner, he was walking down, and it was like, you know how it is, everyone wanted to take a picture. And he got close to me. And prior to me being in DC, I was in LA, taking my daughter to look into her first college. I have an 18-year-old daughter, and I have a 14-year-old son. So it's close to me. I don't want to see any more kids get shot, and I definitely don't want to see my kids shot. And so as the president came closer, there were so many people in front of me. And all I could say is, Mr. President, I was in Highland Park 3 weeks before that shooting happened, marching with March for Our Lives. He turned around, they parted the seat for me, and I was able to get over there and talk to the president, take a picture. And one of the things that I said was, I appreciate the bipartisan Safer Communities Act. It's a first lap around the track, but we need a lot more done than that. One part of that, thank you. One part of that legislation, or that passing in those 5 things that the Congressman just mentioned, was pouring into community violence intervention $250 million. Now, when I was at the White House, I had a lot of colleagues there. We've been at this for a long time. As they mentioned, it wasn't the politicians, it was us. We sat there. I have colleagues, we wrote that Build Back Better policy. We've been pushing and pushing. And the good thing about it is we had something in place when they finally decided, let's do something. While I was in DC, I met with the Department of Justice. And we talked about community violence intervention. And community violence intervention is something that, although I want these laws to be changed, although we need assault rifles off the streets, some of my colleagues and practitioners, we don't have the time to wait while it gets passed. We have to work in these communities right now. I want to applaud. I live in Lake County, and my state's attorney, Reinhardt, recently allocated close to $1 million for community violence intervention for Waukegan, North Chicago, and Zion. Just in Zion the other day, we had 2 14-year-olds shot. We had an 18-year-old killed by a 14-year-old. Violence is an epidemic. It is everywhere. And what happens in Zion, what happens in North Chicago, what happens in Highland Park, what happens in Inglewood, what happens in Woodlawn, South Shore, it affects us all. I'm honored to come here and speak, as I was honored when my good friend Rachel Jacoby, Sarah Konishnik invited me to Highland Park to speak. And just to make all of you aware that we are trying our best to do community violence intervention that is a way of intervening in violence from the ground level. We cannot depend on the police to handle all the things that happen in neighborhoods, because you know what? They're not going to be able to see when someone has an issue or a disrespect situation happen, or they feel some type of way at school, or anything happen. You need people on the ground who are around individuals on a regular basis that can spot these things, identify them, and try to alleviate them. Today I have on my orange. I was in Houston. And we all know how Texas is. Everyone walks around with a gun on their hip. So I was out there marching for March for Our Lives in Houston. I was out there helping to launch a CVI program out there because everyone is fed up. Everyone is tired of people being killed. Everyone is tired of people dying. Everyone is tired of the excuses. Now, as it was mentioned, and I thought about this, 30 years to get some gun laws changed in this country. Wow, what's that say about our country? 30 years. We cannot afford another 30 years because that's not enough. I'm excited that we got some stuff changed, but we cannot wait another 30 years for them to get even deeper into those laws. And it really boils down to, if they don't want to be on, we have to vote them out. We cannot allow the money of the NRA and all these lobbyists that have this money to outdo our votes. Our votes should conquer all of them. And we need to find out, are they with us? If they're not, we need to galvanize and make sure that they are voted out of office, because this is something that is bipartisan and is affecting everyone. Highland Park has Republicans and Democrats last I checked. So I know that they were affected by those children and those that lost their lives in Highland Park. So I just ask all of you, continue to apply pressure. We cannot have just one march, one rally. No, let's keep having them. As long as I'm here and they want me to come somewhere and speak, I'm there, because we have to keep applying pressure. They have to know we're serious. Trust me, they're looking for us to say, oh, it's over with now. I sat on a panel one time with some lady from Sandy Hook that had lost her child in the Sandy Hook shooting. And I've also, when I was in D.C. last week, I was with Hadiah Pendleton's parents. And we all know the Orange movement was kind of started off of what happened to Hadiah Pendleton in Chicago. But like I say, sometimes these things are there, we forget about them, we go about our regular life. As I say, I do not have that luxury. I'm every day always dealing with gun violence in this country. And it's an honor, and I'm happy to do it. And I will continue to do it because it has become what my purpose is in life, to be able to see gun violence end, to be able to say children, to be able to be safe in their communities and live a healthy life in this country. I love you all. Let's continue to apply pressure. Let's end gun violence now.
I'd next like to welcome up State Representative Jennifer Gunn-Gershwitz to speak.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jennifer Gunn-Gershwitz, and I am the state representative for the 17th District, where we are standing right now. We are here in Gallery Park, on the playground at Atia Middle School. This is a place that we normally associate with celebrations. It's a place where all three of my boys grew up playing soccer, where they attended middle school. It's also the park where we normally gather on July 4th as a community to watch the fireworks and celebrate the birth of our nation. Nothing about what is happening in our country these days feels normal. Grieving mass shootings at schools and parades is not normal, and yet here we are again. As your representative in the Illinois House, I say no more. Right-wing extremists in Illinois and Washington are determined to give more rights to guns than to women, and we say no more. That's right, I want to hear it. No more. Gun violence is an epidemic in this country. Mass shootings like the one that shattered our neighbors in Highland Park are part of a seemingly inevitable stream of tragedies that has no comparison except in war anywhere on earth. In communities across our state, mothers are burying their children because of everyday gun violence, and we say no more. My own family experienced a horrific loss when my cousin and her two young children were murdered in an episode of all too familiar gun-related domestic violence. I understand the grief that families go through when they lose loved ones to gun violence. We have been demanding answers and action for far too long, and like you, I'm sick and tired of too little, too late. Guns destroy too many families in Illinois and across this country. It does not have to be this way. Gun violence is not normal, and to that we say no more. No more. The United States is unique in allowing easy access to high-powered weapons. In much of the world, the idea of mass shooting with military-style weapons is unheard of. Parents can send their kids to school or a parade without worrying about them being victims of a mass shooting. Here in Illinois, we voted to pass universal background checks, red flag laws, strengthen the firearms restraining order, and ban untraceable ghost guns. As a legislator, I am proud to have an A+ rating from the Gun Violence Prevention PAC and an F from the NRA. I worked hard to earn that F from the NRA, and I'm going to keep doing it. We will act through legislation, not thoughts and prayers. It is time to ban assault weapons here in Illinois, and I will continue to work until we get that done. There is no reason for a person to legally purchase a weapon that can mow down dozens of innocent people in seconds. We cannot tolerate the continued proliferation of dangerous weapons of war in our community. One thing many mass shootings have in common is their choice of weapon. High-powered, semi-automatic military assault weapons are specifically designed to allow a gunman to kill as many people in as short amount of time as possible. These tools of death have no place in our community. I stand here today and I promise to you that I will do everything in my power to ban assault weapons in Illinois. This is not going to be an easy fight, and we need each and every one of you to support these efforts at the ballot box by volunteering for candidates and causes that are fighting for our children's lives. As Congresswoman Schakowsky and Congressman Schneider said, they are going to vote on an assault weapons ban in the House, but until we flip 2 more seats in the U.S. Senate, that bill is unlikely to be given the hearing that it deserves from the people and the families that have suffered far too long. So get out there and organize, get out there and vote. Elections have consequences, and the stakes are way too high for us to lose. Thank you for joining us today. Keep up the fight, and let's get moving together.
Thank you. The next speaker is going to be Karen Fleetler, of the state co-lead of Moms Demand Action.
Hey everyone, I'm going to keep my mask on, but I think I'll be loud enough for you to hear me. My name is Karen Fleetler. I am the co-lead of the Illinois chapter of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. Thank you for having me today. Thank you to the organizers for all the work you put into this, and thank you to all of you for showing up. Thank you to all of our elected officials for taking time out of your day today too. I know there's never time off for you. So my role here today is to talk about action. But first I want to tell you that this work is hard work. You are not going to always have the energy of a rally. You're not always going to have the energy of something just happened yesterday that affects you, and you still need to find a way to keep going. So I just wanted to share with you, take a moment today after you leave to think about your why, and maybe make it personal. Who is that why for you? Whether it's somebody you knew at the parade last week, somebody you know who lives in another part of the state who has lost somebody to gun violence, make it personal for you and keep that, write it down on a Post-it note and write down, keep going. There's no perfect way to end this, but without you, we can't do it. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about things that you can do. And I want you to know that as much as change happens in the state legislature and in Congress, it starts with you. The folks behind me need you at their back. They need you supporting them. They need you helping them get reelected if they are gun sense champions, which the folks here today are. So take those opportunities to volunteer for them, to vote for them, to thank them. And if somebody's not on your side, we're going to tell you how to organize to push them to the right side. So first I wanted to tell you that we have been phone banking. We started this morning, we had 70 people on a phone bank this morning, and we are just getting started. The phone bank was focused on State Bill HB 5522. This will ban military-style weapons, including assault weapons and attachments, 50 caliber rifles and cartridges, and magazines with more than 10 rounds. Weapons of war have no place here. These phone banks, which I would love for you to participate on, are going to continue throughout the week. I will tell you how to sign up for them. We are calling constituents in the districts of key representatives who haven't gotten off the fence yet. We are talking to those constituents who are friendly on this cause and asking them to call their state representative. We had so much good response this morning. They were saying, thank you. I'm going to tell my whole church I'm going to do this now. So we need you to help make those calls, and I will tell you how to do that. We need you to join the movement. And I want you to know there's no one right way to do that. If you want to organize with Moms Demand Action, take out your phone now and text the word READY to 64433 or go to momsdemandaction.org. Moms Demand Action is not just moms. We are people of all genders, all races, all backgrounds, all ages. We are working together because we are going to get this done. We are not just moms. We want all of you with us. There's other organizations. There's March for Our Lives, Giffords, all sorts of organizations. I also want you to know that people at the national level in these organizations are looking at Illinois gun laws and gaps and focusing on finding out solutions. I wanted to tell you to gear up for election season. We're not quite there yet, but the fall general election is coming soon. Starting in August, we're going to need to hit the ground running with helping to get good candidates elected who are on the right side of gun violence prevention. There will be more to come on that, but keep it in mind. Get ready to spend some time in September and October knocking doors, making calls, and helping to get folks elected because at the end of the day, every vote matters. I wanted to tell you also, if you have ever thought about running for office yourself, even if you haven't thought about it, maybe people have told you, now is the time to do it. Not just at the state level, at the local level. We need you on library boards. We need you on school boards. We need you on park district boards. We need you on township boards, which I am. We need you all over the place. And if gun violence prevention is your key issue, they need you on those boards because I gotta tell you, the other side is pushing for their people on these boards too. So don't think that something isn't safe. If you have interest in running for office, the amazing Tracy Katz-Mull is here, committee person of Democrats in Northfield Township. Please find her afterwards. Or if you know somebody, please tell Tracy we really need people running for office for all of these boards. I wanted to tell you that we are making good strides. Recently, for the first time in too many years, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms finally has somebody at the helm to run that bureau. It has been sitting empty. We got that done. We banned ghost guns in Illinois. Thanks to the help of people behind me who voted on this issue, organized on this issue, co-sponsored bills, we banned ghost guns in the state of Illinois. We expanded background checks. We got money for community violence interruption. All of these things are getting done, but we need you every day to take action. It doesn't have to be huge, game-changing action. In fact, it won't be. I can promise you that. It still matters. There's no perfection, only progress. I want to close by telling you a little bit about my why. I have 2 young children, and I joined in 2015 after going to an event and hearing Jan Schakowsky talk, and hearing her say that when people on the floor of Congress say that they want to give thoughts and prayers, she doesn't want to take any more moments of silence. She wants to scream. I joined because that has to stop. I have 2 kids, and every time they walk out the door, it's something I think of. But I also joined because our state and our country has a problem with gun violence that affects people who are marginalized and don't get the attention that Highland Park does. I have to share with you something that was shared last week at the community rally in Highland Park that Rachel Jacoby organized. Any mother who loses a child to gun violence is a mother. It doesn't matter where they live. It doesn't matter how many people were killed that day. They are hurting, and we cannot leave people behind. I grew up in the Chicago area, and gun violence, frankly, hasn't improved enough in Chicagoland. It hasn't moved, and partly that's my fault. I haven't done enough. That's why I joined. So think about your why. Text READY to 64433 to join moms. We have a Glenview Northbrook group forming right now. We will have a meeting coming soon. There are groups in all of the surrounding towns. If you download the Moms Demand Action app, you can find upcoming events. You can go to momsdemandaction.org and look for events there. The app is a great way to find events, and keep checking it because we're adding new events every day, including phone banks this week. So keep checking every day. Lastly, I just want to ask you one question. Are you fired up and ready to go to make change? Thank you for being here today. Please remember that why, and please get going. Thank you.
I'd next like to invite State Representative Laura Fine up to speak.
Hello, everybody. I am State Senator Laura Fine, and you are standing in the 9th District. You are also standing on the same soccer fields where my kids played soccer, and I felt like it was a safe environment. As a mom, I've been sitting here on the verge of tears all morning, looking at this poster in the eyes of these children who have mothers who are heartbroken because they have lost their children to gun violence. I can't imagine any worse nightmare. I am frustrated and I am sorry for all the children who have to go to school and learn how to be trained in active shooter drills. And they say that they are accustomed to these unconscionable acts of violence. There is strength in numbers. 10 years ago, walking the halls of Springfield, we had about 4 women from Moms Demand Action. Last week, I attended a meeting where there were 1,400 people willing to support the goals of Moms Demand Action. Again, we have strength in numbers. Together, we can rid our communities of these horrific weapons, which are designed for use in the battlefield, not on our neighborhood streets. The far right will tell you there's a really simple reason all these gun violence acts are taking place. They blame mental health. Well, I have a question. Do people only suffer from mental illness in the United States? No. People suffer from mental illness worldwide, but we only have these mass shootings here in the United States. The common denominator is these weapons of war that are readily available and legally purchased. There is no need for us to have these weapons, and that's where we need to focus. Research will tell you that people with mental illness are not the problem. It is violent, radicalized people who have access to deadly weapons. People with mental health issues are, in fact, no more likely to be violent than the general public. Only 3 to 5% of violent acts are committed by people undergoing mental health episodes, and much of that is self-inflicted. We must understand that the reason behind these mass shootings are not isolated incidents of mentally ill, quote-unquote, lone wolves, but the product of years of indoctrination, radicalization in dark corners of the internet, and more recently in public, even on the steps of our White House. Racism, white supremacy, anti-Semitism, misogyny, homophobia, and so many other brands of hate find breeding ground online, with isolated, disturbed young men coming together to share hate and their violent plans. This, combined with easy access to these killing machines, which can shred dozens of lives in seconds, has led us to this unspeakably sad day. As the chair of the Mental Health Committee in the Illinois Senate, I agree that we need to put more funding into mental health. So many people have been traumatized by these violence acts, and we need more services available. Ironically, today is the day that the 988 Crisis Lifeline goes into effect. If you are not familiar with it, 988 is 911 for mental health. If you are in crisis, you can simply dial 988 and somebody will be there to answer your call and guide you through your crisis. As a society, we must make it easier to get the mental health support that we need. We must not further stigmatize mental illness and prevent people from seeking the help that they need. The overwhelming majority of people dealing with mental health issues are not violent. And you cannot paint mental health issues with the same brush as you can mass murderers. It distracts us. It distracts us from the real cause of these horrific acts of violence, which are right-wing radicalization. We must focus our resolve on rectifying the real problem, preventing radicalized individuals who premeditate these murders from having access to weapons of war. These are simply killing machines. I stand with you to ban weapons of war, assault rifles, and make sure the friends, family, and neighbors we have lost will save others in the future. Their lives will not have been lost in vain. Thank you for standing with us on this issue.
Hello, my name is Jordan DeGea, and I am part of the team organizing today's event. While I'm so grateful to see so many of you here, it's impossible to ignore the very real tragedy, grief, and anger that has sparked our meeting today. As of today, we stand here still less than 2 weeks out from one of the most horrific events to ever impact the North Shore community. Every politician and activist can likely look back and tell you the exact moment that pushed them over the edge, the moment they realized they simply could not stay silent anymore. For many people, a mass shooting this close to home, this was their wake-up call. And I stand here in front of you today, pleading with each and every single one of you not to stop here, not to forget, to continue even after today has ended, fighting to put an end to gun violence. When media attention is at its peak immediately following a mass shooting, politicians get on board, communities band together, and people pay attention. And then as the initial buzz begins to die down, people begin to forget. They forget the dissociative grief of July 4th, the shock and horror we all felt watching the video of cops doing absolutely nothing to protect our children in Uvalde, Texas. They forget the tears shed by parents, by siblings, by teachers, by friends, as day after day, we fail to be any kind of united in these death sentence states of America. And as an Indigenous woman, I find a certain kind of irony in the gun violence epidemic today. As guns once killed my people and shattered our communities, they do so now to all of us. But I guess it's not really the same, is it? Because you can shove our ghosts onto reservations, into systems of oppression, and continue, as we like to forget. But when gun violence leaves the reservation, the dense metro areas, street corners, and finds itself in majority white, wealthy towns, it's a lot harder to just push it away. Communities donate, they raise money for reform initiatives, politicians make new promises, and the media talks. So with this privilege of media coverage and attention from our elected officials all the way up to the White House, what will we do now? Is it not up to us now to take the baton and set the example? Is it not our responsibility to be able to one day look these families in the eye and say, I did not stay silent. After all this time, I did not forget. It is one thing to attend a protest or even to organize it, and another to realize that our community, in some sick twist of fate, has become the next headline mass shooting. The attention has now turned to us, our comments, our stories, and now our actions. It takes work to enact change, and it takes time that we may feel like we don't have to commit ourselves to a cause, no matter how noble we may find it. But I urge you, I plead with you to donate your time and your energy to creating a world where your children can safely go to school, where fireworks are never mistaken for gunfire, because why the hell would they ever be? where military-grade weapons belong only to the military, and where you and I can walk the streets safely in peace. Activism is no checklist. It is a repetitive knock on the door asking you if you'll answer it this time, if you'll pick up the baton and see it through to completion. There are so many resources for getting involved in this fight, and so many people who want to educate others on how to join in. Many of them standing behind me or among you in this crowd. So let this be a diving board to a chapter in your lives where you start getting curious. Is a mass shooting every day normal? Are my elected representatives actually representing my values and my beliefs? What can I myself do to create a future America that I would like to live in? So I will raise my voice now for the people who have lost theirs and for those who will continue to lose theirs until we make some kind of real, meaningful change. When the conversation ends, so does the change. So I will ask you, one last time, do not stay silent. Please, do not forget. I'd now like to invite Claire Williams up to join me for a few closing remarks. Before we close out, I'd like to express my gratitude to the organizations and individuals who've rallied together today in support of the same cause. Thank you to the elected officials, Moms Demand Action, and the countless volunteers who've given their time to be here today. There are multiple tables behind you with tons of resources about how to join in on this fight. Please feel free to take some time after we walk together to visit these tables and learn more about how you too can join in.
And as Jordan said, the fight does not end here. Can they hear this? As Jordan said, the fight does not end here. This is just the beginning. Attending this event does not check off a box on your list and mean that you've done your part. We must continue to show our elected officials that this is not acceptable and that we will hold them accountable by voting them out of their positions in government. Now please join us as we march for our lives. Thank you.